Hello, my friends. Today I want to share with you my experience in volunteering abroad, specifically in a hostel while traveling. So basically volunteering for free accommodation. I used the Workaway, and this is what I'm mainly going to be talking about. But towards the end of the video, I will also mention other platforms and other ways you can find volunteering position. So first of all, if you've never heard about it before, or maybe you've heard about it but you're not sure if this is something for you, for people that want to probably travel for a little bit longer, like long-term travelers, probably backpackers, volunteering abroad, volunteering in another country is a great way to, one, save money, because most of the time, all of the time, you actually don't pay for the accommodation, and second, immerse yourself in the local culture and really get the feel of the place that you're traveling to. If this is something that you want to know about, I'm going to tell you about my experience. I'm going to tell you what to expect, what to look for when you're looking for your volunteering experience, and basically everything that I've experienced and everything that I've heard from other volunteers, from other travelers. They've done it, because I personally done it twice. I've almost done it 4 times, but I actually done it twice. I've done it once in Guatemala and once in Albania, because I was traveling for a long time and I was staying in a lot of hostels. I actually met a lot of people that were also volunteering. I've worked with another volunteers as well, so I've heard all possible stories. So although I've only stayed in 2 places, I've got a lot of tips that I could share with you, just so your volunteering experience is great. So what actually happened? so how did it even start? The first time I quit my job to travel, I was traveling altogether for around 10 months. I had a set monthly budget, because at that time I was traveling purely on my savings. So I knew that I can spend anything between 800 to 1,000 euros per month. I was not allowed to go anywhere above 1,000 euros per month. However, the very first choice that I made when it comes to destination was a bit strange, because it was actually in Madeira, which is amazing, and I dreamt of going to Madeira for a very long time. But Madeira is expensive, and given that I was a backpacker on budget, on a very strict budget, going to Madeira wasn't actually a very great idea. So guess what? I spent 6 weeks in Madeira and I've overspent. I went way above my 1,000 euros per month allowance. And then I traveled for another 4 weeks in Portugal. So when I finally moved to the other side of the world and I landed in Colombia, I realized that I really need to find a way to cut down on my monthly spendings and go even below that 800. I wanted to find a way to travel, to spend anything between 600 to 700 euros per month, which at the time I could not think of a way of doing it. But luckily I made a friend when I was in Colombia. We actually still friends until now, and she noticed that I am pretty skinned. So she said to me, why don't you try volunteering in a hostel? Because this is a great way of saving money. You're not paying for the accommodations. Very often you even get the food. And accommodation is the biggest chunk of the spending, of travel and spending. And that was the light bulb moment for me. So I started searching, and I started searching on Workaway, because I've heard already about volunteering, but for some reason I've never really considered it. Maybe partially because of my age. I thought maybe I'm a little bit too old for that, but I just decided to do it, and I managed to land a opportunity in Guatemala. So when I finished my stay in Colombia, I went all the way to Guatemala. So I started my Guatemala travel with that volunteering experience, and I loved it. The following year, I also got a position in Albania. So I definitely believe that if you are a long-term traveler or backpacker, or even if you want to go somewhere for a month and just immerse yourself in the culture and just stay in this one place for a little bit longer, but you short on budget, you want to save money on accommodation, and at the same time really become part of the community, volunteering is a great option. What were my criteria when I was searching for the volunteering position? So I went on the Workaway website. You have to sign up and buy the subscription, the yearly subscription, which is really cheap. It is at the moment 49 euros for a year on Workaway if you're a single person. And it's so worth it because you will get that money after 2-3 nights of free of accommodation. You'll get that money back. I will show you in a moment how the website actually works. So you sign up, you create a profile, you put up your picture, you write down a few things about yourself, and then you search for the opportunities. I had two main criteria in both situations, and I think they worked really well for me, and this is why I want to share them with you. The first criteria was I wanted to volunteer in a hostel. I'm not saying that this is what you need to do. I'm just going to tell you why I chose a hostel. First of all, because this is something that I know. I've been working in hospitality for many years, and I felt comfortable. I felt like this is something that I will not have to spend a lot of time learning. I thought that I can really contribute, that I can basically arrive in a place and just do my job without them having to teach me or explain me too many things. And also it's something that I really like. I love working with customers. I love working in hospitality, whether it's a bar, restaurant, hotel, hostel. That's always been something that I really enjoyed. So I basically wanted it to be a hostel because I also knew that hostels are very social. So I knew that it's more than likely I will actually meet people and will make friends while I'm staying in a hostel and while I'm working there. And the second criterion was the location. I wasn't really that bothered about the country because at the time I was looking in both Colombia and Guatemala, and at some point I was also looking in Mexico, but I was really focused on the right location within the country. I wanted it to be big enough with plenty of things to do, so when I stay there for a month, on my days off I will actually have things to do and things to explore. But it really depends on your priorities. Those were my priorities, but also I didn't want it to be a big city. I wanted still to be close to the nature, preferably close to some kind of body of water like lake or a sea. So I found a volunteering position in Livingston, in Guatemala, which is right by the Caribbean Sea, which was perfect, and I've actually really loved it. I don't even know if I would even go there if it wasn't for that volunteering position. And it was the same in Albania. When I was in Albania, I was volunteering in Škoda, which is amazing because it's just by the Albanian Alps. So on my days off, I could just go take a 2-day trip to the mountains, or there were many places to see and things to do around the lake as well. So I really enjoyed it. And because I'm a blogger as well, I wanted it to be a place about which I could write maybe at least couple of articles. So basically I wanted it to be interesting enough, yet laid back and close to the nature. Why I'm giving you those two criteria? Because this is what you want to do when you will be looking for your place. First, think about what is it that you actually want to do, because there's so many things you can do. You can work in hospitality, you can work in hotel or hostel, or most of the times those are hostels, but sometimes there are like retreats, yoga retreats, different places like that. But you can also work as a yoga instructor, as a painter. You can do the work, you can do the wall art for some hotels as well. I've seen many people doing that. You can do some social media for a business. You can also volunteer on the farm. You can volunteer with animals. You can teach children. You can find an NGO as well. You can do so many things. So think about what is it that you would really like to do. Maybe because people do two different things. Some people want to go and do things that they feel very comfortable with, and this is what I did. Because I thought the volunteering and working, because it is work at the end of the day, in a strange country, on completely other side of the world, is challenging for me enough, so I wanted to do something that I know of, and again, something that maybe I wouldn't have to spend a lot of time learning. But other people like to challenge themselves even more and just go and do things that they've never done before. So if this is something that you want to do, of course you want to be a little bit qualified maybe, because if you want to go and teach English, maybe you should, for example, speak English or have some kind of certificate. Or if you want to be a yoga teacher, maybe you should be actually a yoga teacher. But with other things like farming or taking care of animals like horses, or working in a dog shelter or rescue shelter or anything like that, you don't have to be qualified for that. So maybe this is something that you've never done before and you want to challenge yourself. So find what really works for you and go for that at the beginning, because then maybe if you want to do it second time, third time, maybe you just want to change it. And it's the same with the place. Don't just sign up for everything, because a lot of places would require from you to stay for at least 4 weeks. There are some rare assignments, volunteering assignments, that maybe would be enough if you went for 1 week or 2 weeks. Those most of the time is a farm work, because you can just go there and, you know, pick up fruit. You don't really need to be trained for that. But for example, like in my case, when I was working in hospitality, well, a lot of the times it was cleaning as well, but someone need to teach you this. You're not going to know from the day one what to do, so they don't want to waste 2-3 days teaching you something just for you to leave 2-3 days later. So they very often require you to stay for 3-4 weeks. So if you're planning to stay somewhere for a little bit longer, you want to make sure that you stay in the place that you will enjoy. If you love nature and you want to be in the middle of nowhere, you want to go to the jungle or something, look for places like this. If you love big cities like Bangkok or Kuala Lumpur, go to places like this. Or if you're a little bit like me, that you like a little bit in between, do that. So now you went looking for your volunteering opportunities and you found few that maybe you are interested in. So now I would like to share with you a couple of things that you should definitely look out for to be sure that nothing disappointing would happen. First of all, the great thing about all those platforms is that there is a review system. So both hosts and volunteers can leave an opinion. So read those opinions. Read every single one, because what is right for one person might not be right for another person. So if you just read one and it's great, that doesn't mean that it's going to be great for you, because maybe the second person didn't like it, and maybe they didn't like it for the reason that you might not like it for. And preferably try to find a place that has more than one opinion, just so you can really get a feel of the place. What I was also doing when I was looking for hostels, I was trying to find them on booking.com. Although they very often don't disclose the name of the hostel, I always find my way to find it. There's always a way to find it. They always put some pictures and you know what town is it. So let's say there's 7 hostels in the picture, you just put those hostels in booking.com and compare the pictures. You find it. I'm a master stalker, so I know how to find anything. And then read opinions of the guests, because if the hostel have really bad opinions and the guests are saying it's horrible, it's dirty, the staff is not treated very well, maybe you don't want to stay there. But that's the thing with the hostels or anything that is kind of publicly accessible. So if it's a farm or if it's a rescue shelter or anything like that, or if it's a family where you're going to help them maybe with children or teach them English, that might not be available. But read and research as much as you can. And another thing that you should definitely do is thoroughly read the description, because the host will always say what is it going to be required from you, what kind of work they expect, and what they're giving you in return. The accommodation will always be free, because otherwise it defeats the purpose. But sometimes they also offer free food, sometimes they offer free experiences, tours, sometimes they give you free bicycle, or you know, different things. So it's very important to read this, but even more important is to read what is actually going to be expected from you. As a standard, volunteers are expected to work 25 hours per week with 2 days off. So basically 5 shifts of 5 hours, and this is like a industry standard. It can vary. In my very first position, I was working very different hours because I was the only one volunteering at the time. I could see that the owner maybe needed help a little bit here and there. So there were a lot of my shifts were longer than they were supposed to be, but then this was recognized and I would get an additional day off, or the next week I would get 3 days off instead, or on my working day I would be sent on a trip to some Caribbean island, for example, which was like within my working day. So all in all, it was really balanced, at least in my opinion, because the give and take was kind of equal. And I really enjoyed this position, and I really enjoyed what I was and what I was doing and the place and the people that I was working with. So it wasn't an issue for me. Well, for example, when I was in my second position, we had a set time and we stuck to it. We all did, because there was a bunch of us volunteers, we all did our duties during our time and it was all fine. I would always say go to it with a little bit of an open mind as well, be slightly flexible, but then on the other hand, don't let them use you, because at the end of the day you are going to be a little bit of a free labor, because the accommodation most of the time doesn't cost them anything. So don't let them use you either. So like I said, try to find a little bit of a balance. But I think if you follow my tips, meaning do your research, read all the opinions, thoroughly read what they expect from you, and follow all the most important criteria for you, you will be just fine. But just in case things go wrong, always allow yourself an easy exit, meaning have your things handy to grab and go if you need to. Don't give anybody your passport, don't take them like this. I mean, these things will not happen, but just in case. No one can force you to stay anywhere, and if it's just bad, you can just go. And if it was bad, please leave a review, because you want to warn other volunteers. What to expect from the volunteering position, like I said, is 25 hours per week with 2 days off. In exchange, most of the time for free accommodation. The standard of the accommodation varies, but don't expect any luxuries. I would say a private room is a luxury. I was very lucky that on my first assignment I actually had a private room, which I'm not sure if I can call it a room. It was a little bit of an attic shed without the walls, but the thing is that in places like Colombia, Guatemala, it's absolutely normal. You just get your mosquito net and you're happy that you have no walls, because it's just so hot. But it was really cute because I had my own space, because in majority of the places you will be in a shared dorm. I actually stayed in many hostels myself as a guest, where the volunteers would be sharing the accommodation basically with guests. Most of the time, I would say 95% of the time, you will be sharing the accommodation. Most likely will be a dorm. If it's a farm work, it's probably going to be like a shared accommodation as well. Maybe sometimes you'll get a room, maybe sometimes you'll have maybe one person to share a room with, but you need to be aware that this is not going to be a luxurious accommodation, most of the time with shared bathroom and shared kitchen and shared toilet. So be prepared for that, but I think this also adds to the adventure. And when it comes to food, it's not compulsory, and some places offer free food, some don't. In my first place, I was so lucky. I was literally fed all the time, because there was a kitchen on site and a restaurant on the side, and because I helped a lot in the kitchen as well, and I made friends with chefs and people that were cooking, and I would cook for them and then they would cook for me. So I literally didn't have to spend any money on food unless I wanted to go to town and just grab a food over there. The second position didn't come with the free food, but the owner very often would just put us together for lunch in the kitchen. She would sometimes cook really nice things for us, or sometimes I would cook, because I actually really like cooking. Sometimes I would cook, or maybe one of the other volunteers would cook as well, but she would very often provide us with like fresh food and vegetables, rice, things like that. So although the food was not a part of the deal, we very often ate for free. Read the description if this is compulsory for you. If you really want to save on food as well, then look for the places that offer food. But as I said, it's not always the case. A lot of places would maybe provide you the ingredients so you can cook yourself. Provide, if it's a farm, very often they will give you fruit and veg, maybe some rice, maybe some flour, whatever it is that is available in the area, and then you can cook for yourself. That's a really good deal as well. And some places also would have came across a couple of offers like this when they would actually give you allowance for food, like because they wouldn't have kitchen on site or something, they would give you a little allowance, like in money. And when we're talking about the money, there are even some volunteering positions which are paid for. Most of the time, this is because they require from you more hours. They will be looking for someone that maybe is going to do the job full time, meaning 40 or 45 or maybe even more hours per week. And then they will offer you a wage on top of that free accommodation or free food that they offer. So obviously it's not going to be a massive wage, but still, if you're required to work 40 hours, let's say you're going to get paid on top of that, that is not a bad deal. And you never know, if you like the place, you might even stay. Read the description because you will see different offers there. When it comes to jobs and what's required in hostels, I can tell you about that because this is what I did. It can be a reception work, it can be greeting the guests, it can be showing guests around. I've done that as well. But it can be also cleaning, changing beds. I've done a lot of that as well. I've done a lot of laundry. I've done a lot of just taking care of the place and just sweeping and mopping, closing, opening, feeding animals, taking dogs out, feeding the chickens. I've done it all. That's why it's also important you choose the place that you like, because you will be doing a little bit of everything probably. But I do believe that this is worth it because apart from the money, the biggest benefit as well is that you really immerse yourself in the local culture. You really get to know the place where you are. You will spend enough time in the place and you will get to know the locals, because most likely the owners of the place are the locals. So they will introduce you to other locals. They will give you tips on places where only locals go. You will really feel like you got to know the place. If this is something that you really after as a traveler, I could not recommend volunteering highly enough for you. Another thing that you need to be aware of that is that sometimes you might be the only volunteer and sometimes there might be other volunteers. It's not a really big issue, but when I arrived at my second hostel, the one in Albania, I was really surprised because I arrived there in the middle of peak season. The place was crazy. So the owner didn't even have time to show me anything. And they said to me, oh, go to the kitchen and other volunteers are there. And I was like, oh, another volunteers. And then I walked into the kitchen and I've seen another 3 volunteers sitting there eating, all of them in their 20s. So I think this is a really good time to actually answer maybe one more question that you could have. If I ever felt that my age stood in a way of having a great time, if I ever felt like maybe I'm a little bit too old for that, and the answer is no. Yes, I would say around 80% of volunteers that I met, whether while I was volunteering or when I was staying in a hostel as a guest, they were in their 20s. Be prepared for it. If you're my age and you want to go into this, or even if you're in your 30s or 50s or whatever, be prepared that you might be the only more mature volunteer, but there are other volunteers that are older that do that as well. But maybe your age could be a pro, maybe your age could be a really great thing, something that the owner would be looking for. And I never really felt out of place. On that moment when I walked into that kitchen in this hostel, I felt a little bit strange at first, but that went away straight away. I sat at the table with them and we were just talking, and it was never an issue. And then I never felt like the age was the issue, because if you've been to this channel before, you know that I always say that the travelers, backpackers, long-term travelers create this incredible, open-minded, non-judgmental community that I love to be part of. So whether you are in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s and you want to try, just do it. Don't even think twice about it. So the most important question, is it really the best way? Is it really a good way to save money while traveling? And the answer is Definitely yes. I saved on that 1 month when I was in Guatemala, I saved around 500 euros. I saved around 500 euros on accommodation. And when I was in Albania, I probably also saved on around 450 euros as well. So it's definitely worth it when it comes to way of saving money. And if you also get the food on top of it, you literally saving so much money. You could just live off for a month on 200 euros if you wanted, and maybe you want to do other things. Maybe you want to go and do some experiences, I don't know, go out and have a drink, whatever you like. But it is definitely one of the best ways to save the money while traveling. So now let me tell you a little bit practically. I'm actually going to show you on my screen how the website looks and what to do, what to look for, and what are the prices and what are different websites that you can use. There are 3 main websites. One is Workaway. This is the one that I used. Another one is Workpackers. That one is also very, very popular. And the third very popular option is woofing, which is mainly farming, eco farming, permaculture, things like this. So this, if this is something that you're interested in, and maybe if this is something that you want to learn about, this is great. And this is also very, very popular. So this is the Workaway website. I mean, I actually open it on the subscription side just so you can see the prices. So basically, if you are just one person, it is 49 euros. But if you are a couple, it's 59 euros. It's very easy to join. You just join, you pay your money, and you set up your profile. And then when you want to go and look for the host, you go here, find host. Of course, you can read about it as well, how it works. There are meetups, there's community here as well. But this is where you go to find the host, and you will see all these countries. And I'm pretty sure there's even more. Yes, see all opportunities. And then you can just type in any country. So you can do Europe in general, but let's say you wanted to go, like I went to Albania in Europe, and then you just go, and then you have all these opportunities. And then basically you have all these amazing places, and you can also search by keyword. And also you have options here, accommodation, info, availability, and more. And you can apply the filters. So you have art projects, language practice, and if you do show more, you will for sure show hospitality and tourism in case you wanted to do some volunteering in a hostel. But you can do charity work, language practice, elderly companionships, gardening, animal care, DIY, teaching. But if you want, I'm pretty sure you can do it by town as well. So let's say you wanted to do some volunteering in, I don't know, in Bogota, Colombia. And then you just read through it. So you have help with creation of farm, finca organica. Then you have some eco projects as well, but I'm sure that you see holistic center. You've got loads of things, and you can just read through them. Once you found the one that you like, let's say, where's the holistic center? Like this one. That sounds very nice. You open it up, and you see the pictures. And then here you have all the details. You see, I'm searching this without even logging in, so you can just go there and just check things out. And then they will give you description of everything that you might expect. They're looking for a yoga teacher, for example. So if you're a yoga teacher, you can do that. And then accommodation. And then they have a glamping tent. That is awesome. I want to become a yoga teacher just to do that. And then the other ones, they look the same. So let's do the Worldpackers. So this is the Worldpackers. I'm not as familiar with this website as I am with the other one, because basically I was not looking for anything here, but I'm sure it's the same. Exactly. Volunteer opportunities, and you have all the countries. Let's say you want to go and work in Mexico. And then you have hostel by the beach. Toma. Very first one that you have, it's a hostel by the beach. So yes, this is something that I would go even today. So you have again all the information here. You can choose, from what I can see, you can also filter by the things that interest you, and the price, the world package is for 1 year. Most of them, they are for 1 year. It's 49 euros as well. It's $52.90. That's the cheapest one. Then you have another packages here. You have 99 and 129. There's some additional safety add-ons. So yeah, if you are interested, you can definitely read through it and see which package is more suitable for you. But then you also have the woofing, and woofing with the subscription is a little bit different because each country where the woofing is available is kind of its own entity. So the prices are different per country. So if you sign up, let's say, for woofing in Argentina, you only paid for Argentina. So if after 2-3 months you want to move to Peru and you want to do some woofing in Peru, you have to pay for a subscription in Peru. You see, you have some places are a little bit more expensive, like Canada, of course. I'm sure US is expensive as well. But if you want to do it in Brazil, it's 40 euros. But if you want to do it in Czech Republic, it's 22 euros, for example. So I do believe that not all countries actually are subscribed to this program, but you can do in places like Spain, for example, which is 36 euros, which is still not a bad price if you think about it. Portugal, 30 euros. So even if you do a month in Spain and a month in Portugal, and it would cost you, let's say, 66 euros altogether, what you will send on those 2 months on accommodation, it's not comparable. So it's still definitely worth it. Woofing is more about farm work, permaculture, education center, sustainable farming. You see, family farm, vineyards. So if this is something that you're interested in, or maybe this is something that you want to develop, like a knowledge or skill that you want to develop for yourself, this is an amazing thing to do. I think if I wanted to like run my own farm and wanted to learn about farming, I would definitely do that, because you can do holistic educational center in the jungle. That sounds amazing. By the way, I am not sponsored by any of these places, by any of these companies. I genuinely am excited about volunteering. I think this is a great thing to do, and you end up working in places that you would otherwise never really consider. So I'm definitely an advocate, and you should do it. If you were not sure before this video if this is something that you want to do, I hope that now you really want to do it. So I hope this video was helpful. If you really like this type of content, please subscribe. I'll make a lot of this type of videos when I just give some tips and information for more of a long-term or slow travelers, or solo travelers, solo female backpackers, and those travelers that are a little bit more mature like me. But I'm also based in Greece at the moment, so I do some Greece content as well. So if this is something that you're interested, please subscribe. It would mean the world to me. And also, if you found this video valuable, please consider giving me a thumbs up, because it definitely helps the algorithm. And if you have any questions, if you think I maybe didn't cover something important, or if you have any questions about my experience, if you need any additional tips or information, please leave it in the comments. I will put links into all these websites in the description as well, so you can look for your opportunities. And yeah, happy traveling, happy volunteering, and I will see you in the next one. You take care. Bye now.